At 2:17, everything went dark. Before they buried the footage, one camera recorded everything. Subscribe, because some videos disappear twice. They erased what really happened. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the city didn't flicker, it didn't dim, it disappeared. One moment, streets were alive, headlights cutting through the night, neon signs glowing, traffic signals cycling like clockwork. And then, everything stopped, not gradually, not in waves, instantly. Entire districts went dark at the same time, as if something had reached into the grid and switched it off in a single motion. Power failures don't work like that. They cascade, they overload, they trip protections one by one. But this was different. Hospitals lost primary power, triggering emergency backups. Yet in several facilities, those systems hesitated, as if something interfered before they could respond. Surveillance cameras didn't just go offline. They cut out mid-frame, frozen images, half-processed data, incomplete signals, like a recording interrupted by something stronger than the system itself. Traffic control systems failed silently. No alerts, no warnings, no attempt to recover. Even communication towers, built to withstand outages, dropped their signals at the exact same moment. Engineers would later review the logs, or what remained of them, and they all reached the same conclusion. This shouldn't have been possible, because for this kind of total failure to occur, every layer of redundancy would have had to collapse simultaneously. And that doesn't happen unless something forces it to. But the most unsettling part wasn't the blackout itself. It was what came after. Because for exactly 6 minutes, the system didn't just go dark, it went silent. No logs were written, no data was stored, no backup records were created. It was as if those 6 minutes were removed from reality. Days passed before anything surfaced, not from officials, not from news outlets, but from fragments, files that weren't supposed to exist, corrupted clips uploaded anonymously, short, distorted recordings pulled from damaged storage. Most of them were unusable, broken frames, audio filled with static, images that dissolved into noise before anything could be understood. But a few survived. One clip, in particular, came from a street-level surveillance camera, time-stamped seconds before the blackout. Everything looked normal. Cars moved through the intersection, pedestrians crossed under steady lights, nothing out of place, until the image shifted. At first, it was subtle, a flicker, a distortion in the signal. But it didn't behave like a power failure. It didn't fade, it warped. The pixels stretched unnaturally, bending across the frame like something was interfering with the signal itself. And then, just before the feed collapsed, something appeared, not clearly, not fully formed, but enough to register. A shape, standing where nothing had been seconds before. It didn't move, it didn't react. It was just there. Then the screen went black. Other clips showed the same pattern, different parts of the city, different cameras, but always the same sequence. Distortion, interference, presence, and then darkness. Officials later claimed the footage was too corrupted to analyze, that nothing meaningful could be recovered. But they never explained why multiple systems in different locations captured the same anomaly at the exact same moment. That's when the documents began to circulate. Internal reports, technical analyses, fragments of investigations that were never meant to be seen outside controlled environments. Almost every page was heavily redacted, black bars covering entire paragraphs, sections removed completely, names, locations, timestamps, all erased. But some lines remained visible, and those lines told a different story. Certain phrases appeared repeatedly across multiple documents. Signal breach detected. Unknown interference source. Visual anomaly confirmed. Individually, they could have been dismissed, but together, they pointed to something deliberate, something understood, at least internally. One document contained a single line that stood out, buried between layers of redacted text. Do not attempt to restore full feed. Not unable, not failed. Do not attempt. That wasn't a technical limitation. That was a decision. Why would they stop recovery efforts unless they already knew what the footage contained? An anonymous engineer would later claim that the system didn't fail. It was overridden, not hacked, not damaged, overwritten, as if something external had accessed the network and taken control. And during those missing 6 minutes, the system wasn't inactive. It was running, recording, processing something, just not something anyone was supposed to see. No official explanation was ever released. The incident disappeared. No reports, no coverage, no acknowledgement. But people who were there remembered not just the darkness, but the silence. A kind of silence that didn't feel natural, as if the city itself had paused. Some described movement, not people, not animals, something else. Shapes that didn't behave the way they should. Shadows that didn't match their surroundings. Others reported sounds, low frequency, almost mechanical, not loud enough to identify, but impossible to ignore. And then there were the devices, phones that briefly turned on, screens flickering to life for just a second, displaying static-filled images, frames that didn't match reality, scenes no one remembered witnessing. Then, just as suddenly as it began, everything came back. Lights returned, systems rebooted, traffic resumed. The city continued, as if nothing had happened. But the 6 minutes remained missing. No data, no recovery, no explanation, and whatever appeared in those recordings was never shown again. Because maybe the blackout wasn't a failure. Maybe it was an opening. And for 6 minutes, something wasn't just inside the system, it was inside the city. Something came during those 6 minutes